So, Mitsuru, many people might not even know what a viola is. I mean, they'll have seen it on the video here, but can you talk about your instrument a little bit and maybe how it's different than a violin and
Okay,
yeah.
well, so brass tacks, the viola is like a violin in that I hold it like a violin. So that's why we get confused with violin a lot, is because I'm playing it the same exact way, under my chin, on my left side, as opposed to the cello sitting in between legs. The viola sits in between the cello and the violin, although we are a little bit closer to the violin tonally, but we are just the middle child. Right, the ignored middle child. But what people don't realize usually is that in music, in string music where there's full strings involved, the viola has oftentimes the most crucial color changing part. You know,
It's often like connective tissue, right? Between
it connects
upper and lower.
Yeah, it connects in that way in terms of register, but also in terms of harmonies, and even our function melodically. It's a very specific function. Like normally, a lot of people give us the sad sounding music because we have kind of a muted sound. You know, technically the viola in size, it is bigger than the violin to accommodate the lower register. And actually, unlike the violin, which maxes out at full size, a viola can just get bigger and bigger and bigger based on how tall or how long your arms are.
How long is your viola?
So mine is 16 1/4, which is probably too big for my height and my size, but I like playing a bigger instrument because it clearly shows people that it's not a violin.
You know, we've talked a lot about new music, right, and that whole process, but what do you think are like some pieces in classical music, like whether they're a concerto or just like orchestra spots that like, if people wanted to really hear the viola in an obvious way, like what's something that they could go check out on YouTube or whatever?
Yeah, second movement of Bruckner 4,
Okay.
Bruckner's Fourth Symphony. That's a huge viola movement, just the whole movement. Berlioz, Harold in Italy, Mozart, Sinfonia Concertante.
Yeah, that one's really neat.
Violin,
That's a violin
viola,
and viola, yeah.
Uh-huh. What else? What are some of your favorite viola pieces?
Yeah, I know, like some orchestral pieces, like Beethoven's Fifth Symphony.
Mm-hmm.
The opening to the second movement has some
Yeah,
beautiful violas.
absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Well, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of the household composers, Beethoven, Mozart, they were violists.
Right.
They or I should say they would choose to play the viola when, you know, playing music, because it's in the middle. They get to enjoy the whole piece from the inside,
Right.
you know, and so they would prefer to play on the viola part. Dvorak was actually famously a violist and wrote a great string quartet, the American String Quartet,
Right.
with a viola solo.
Well, in Hindemith.
Yeah.
Hindemith was
Yeah.
a violist as well,
Yeah.
and I mean, he wrote a large concerto
And piece called Trauer music, right?
in Trauer music.
Yeah. No, so there's some really good repertoire out there. Jeremy, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions from the students, and then I think we'll wrap up. Josh Gartke, I hope I pronounced that correctly, asks why a string orchestra? Why just strings?
Yeah, strings. There's something about the way that strings blend together really well. You can really achieve these emotional outbursts by using strings, because when you have a string orchestra, everyone's playing together and they do a swell together, like a big crescendo, and then a subito piano. If everybody does that in just the right way, then it sounds like one instrument rather than a group of many different instruments. And so in the other movements of this piece, I used winds and brass and percussion, and that's when I wanted to achieve all of these mixed colors and more excitement and diversity. But then in this movement, it was all about this common struggle that we all have.
And then I think the last question is from McKenna. Where did you go to school and what is your degree in?
So I grew up in Arkansas.
Okay.
I went to a liberal arts college called Hendrix College in my hometown, and I started college when I was 15. So I was homeschooled for all of my life up until that point.
Okay.
I double majored in music and mathematics. The music program there was very small, and most of my time there was spent studying many, many subjects, which was exactly what I wanted. You know, I loved school. I loved just absorbing all knowledge that I could. And then I went to University of Michigan and studied cello and composition there as well. I started to study math there, but then my math teacher from undergrad told me that he wasn't going to write me a recommendation letter because he didn't want me to waste my musical talents and go into the field of math.
Wow.
And in retrospect, we were talking about hindsight earlier.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
One of the best decisions that he could have made for me.
Absolutely.
And then I played with the Grand Rapids Symphony for a few years, and then won a job with the Detroit Symphony as a cellist, and met you, and came to Jackson a few times, and ended up getting married in Jackson last year at the courthouse right around the corner.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your, just your schooling, your background?
Started out at University of Washington. My major was viola, and then I transferred, when my teacher there left, I followed her down to University of California at Santa Barbara, paradise for 3 years. And then I went from there to totally opposite ends. I went to Baltimore and I studied at Peabody Conservatory. Did my performance diploma there. And then after that, I moved up to New York to become a musician.
Yeah, yeah. And you've actually performed on Saturday Night Live, haven't you?
Yeah, that's my my claim to fame is Saturday Night Live with Imagine Dragons and Kendrick Lamar.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Oh, I have a question for you, Jeremy. Do you feel like with every piece that you write that you change, like your style changes, or like are there any lessons that you learn, and maybe in particular with masks?
That's a great question. I think that I am always changing and growing. You know, I've spent a lot less hours composing than I have playing cello, so I haven't quite gotten to that 10,000 hour level yet where you've achieved perfection. Not that I'm perfect at cello either, but yeah, you know, and it's this cycle where you write a piece, someone performs it, and you hear things that maybe you'd like to do differently next time. And also there's always new inspirations, and so anytime I encounter a new composer that I haven't heard before, or a new set of music, that a new style of music that I really like, you know, I hadn't heard of Motown. I had heard some pieces from Motown, but I hadn't heard of Motown until I moved to Detroit. And now I feel like that music is seeping its way into my compositions.
That's awesome.
Thanks for asking.
Well, I really want to thank you both for spending all this time. It was a lot of time, but it was really interesting to me. I've learned new things, and you know, I love you both. So, thank you.